In part 1, we set the anxiety stage, and now we're ready to dazzle you as we flawlessly dance across it. With Kristin playing herself in the lead role of most anxious ADHDer alive, and Grace fucking around in the background, we'll take you on a whimsical ear journey through the complicated 1-2 step of anxiety and ADHD. Metaphorically look uponst us as we Fosse dance into the comorbidity rates between ADHD and anxiety, monster mash through common anxiety-inducers for ADHDers, and pop, lock, and drop it all the way into treatment options and beyond. Like a moth to the hair, this episode will both frighten and delight you, so make sure you get your ticket for what may not be the most educational anxiety episode out there, but you'll learn something.
They said that we'd grow out of it. Well, the joke's on them, that's just our brains. We're eccentric, loud, and stubborn, and most of our clothing is covered in stains. It's not a deficit of attention, there's just too much to think about. So if executive dysfunction becomes a little too much, if you forgot why you came in this room, or you're hypersensitive to touch, then put on your seamless socks and come join our little flock. Bitches stimming together, we're weirds of a feather, weirds of a feather.
All right, well, yeah, do you want to officially get going on this episode?
Welcome to Weirds of a Feather, an ADHD-Adjacent podcast. I'm your host, Kristin.
That was aggressive for no reason.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Do you want me to redo it?
No, it's good.
Okay.
I'm your host, Grace. It is what it is. At least you remembered.
Yeah, I'm getting there. It's taken almost a year.
Yep, it's been more than a year.
More than a year.
We've been doing this for a while. All right, you're going to start us off with a listener opening question?
I have one. Okay, this one's about food textures.
Oh, okay.
And this is sent in by Alexa Schaefer. So thank you.
Thank you,
from
Alexa.
From Instagram. And I wrote it right back. I was like, I'm adding this to the list. But there is no list. It's just this. Okay, her first question. It's a two-parter.
All right.
It's both about food textures.
All right, perfect.
Crunchy or creamy peanut butter?
See, I could go either way on this, and it really depends on my mood. It depends on the day, and it depends on what I'm eating. Sometimes I like a crunch. Other times I just want it smooth, same texture.
See, absolutely not for me.
Really?
Crunchy peanut butter, it's like against God. I don't even believe in God.
It goes against everything that you stand for,
yes,
which is all the same texture.
All the same texture. Why would you put crunchies in something that's so creamy and delicious and good? You're just going to... I'm so distracted by the crunchies, I can't even enjoy my peanut butter.
All right, here's when I like it, especially is when I'm eating peanut butter and a banana. Because
oh my God,
because the crunch gives because bananas are smushy.
Yes.
And then if I also have smushy peanut butter,
yes,
that's just like
that's perfect.
A lot of smush.
No.
I like a little crunch in there sometimes, a little texture.
No, thank you.
Well, this is my opinion, so I don't care how you like to eat bananas and peanut butter. This is my thing. This is how I like it. So sometimes crunchy, sometimes smooth is where I stand.
No.
All right. What's the second part of the question?
I'm just like, ooh. Like, the peanuts are so hard.
Yeah, but you go into it knowing that you're going to be, like, chewing. That's the difference, Don't go into it as if it's going to be, like, a smooth peanut butter and then you're, like, unpleasantly surprised. Go into it as if, like, I'm going to eat a bunch of mashed up peanuts. All
right. I'm asking poll question.
Poll question!
When is it appropriate to eat crunchy peanut butter?
Yeah, let's talk about the appropriateteness of this question.
Because my opinion would be never.
Inappropriate.
It's inappropriate
is what you say.
In all areas. And
I say appropriate sometimes. Depends on the situation.
I'd like to know. Maybe there's a new recipe I can try with crunchy peanut butter.
No, I don't think you're going to like it.
I don't think so either, but I'm willing to try.
Okay. I appreciate your openness.
Okay, part 2. Crunchy or fluffy French fries? And I don't understand. What is a fresh...
As in crinkle cut? Fluffy? Or does she mean, wait, read it again?
Crunchy or fluffy French fries.
Okay, so she means either like the little like crispy McDonald's ones maybe, or like a bigger, thicker, like fluffier French fry. So crinkle cut or not. But I feel like I think of crinkle cut as like the meatier fry. So that's what I'm picturing. I don't like that.
Crunchy but not burnt.
Yes.
because I think if you overdo the crunchiness, then you're just burnt fries.
Yes, but
and
I don't
those
like
are the worst.
I don't like a fry that's just like a lot of potato, like a big, thicker.
So you're not a
fluffier fry.
potato wedge person?
No, I think it's too much potato. It's too dry. I like a fry.
That's why you have ketchup.
Yeah, but even then, the potato to ketchup ratio is all off. I do like a small, crispy fry.
I agree. If I had my preference, it would be a smaller, crispy fry.
Yep.
I don't want it too thin. I think McDonald's sometimes too thin.
Yeah, I agree. I'll agree with that.
You got it. It's got to be just right. It's got to be. I think Wendy's does a good job if you can get them warm.
Yeah, that's
I
the
feel
problem.
like you're like, oh, these fries have been under the heater for days.
Yeah, I feel like that's the number one thing with fries is like the hotness and the freshness.
Right.
So
Right. I think the ones so we live in New England. When you go to like those like lobster places and they serve it with fries, those are the perfect ones.
Yes, I was gonna say those are the best.
They're like they're made with mean potatoes.
They're little and skinny, but not as skinny as McDonald's.
Usually, sometimes they have the skins left on them, which is nice, like on the very tips.
Just
and they're deep fried and they're lovely.
Yep, I agree.
That's my perfect fry.
That's my PF.
That being said, I come from a long line of potato eaters.
Yep.
Yeah, we regularly for about like 7 people will have like 10 to 15 pounds of mashed potatoes.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I love a mashed potato.
Yeah, well, that's like a whole thing. And it's a whole like every like Thanksgiving or Christmas, it's a whole preparation of the potatoes. And my aunt does the potatoes because she's the best at the potatoes, so no one else does the potatoes. But if someone gives me a potato wedge, you better believe I'm eating that potato wedge.
I'll eat it, but it's not my preference. It's not my favorite.
I'm eating it.
I'll eat
sure.
potatoes in like pretty much any form, but there are definitely like some that are superior.
What about the smiley fries?
I don't know. They're a little too potatoey for me.
See, they're a little too happy for me. You shouldn't be
I
that
want a
happy.
sad fry,
right? I think they should be either serious or sad. Then I feel a little bit better about eating them. I don't want to take the joy out of that fry.
Eat them upside down. So
and I agree, they are a little too potatoey. Right? I think it's because you have to bake them. I think if you deep fried those suckers, that would be really nice.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was a great warm-up question.
Yeah. Thanks, Alexa Schaefer, for sending that in. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And those of you listening, you'll have to let us know. Take it to the polls. Let us know what you think.
Take it to the polls.
What your stances are on crunchy peanut butter.
Yeah.
When is it appropriate, if at all? And
it's never appropriate, but that's okay. I'm willing to entertain the fact that there may be some sort of particular situation where crunchy peanut butter would be appropriate.
Yeah, some kind of like dire end of the world situation.
Yes. Yeah. You're on an island. It's the only thing to eat.
All right. In extreme situations. Although eating peanut butter on an island, too dry. I feel like your mouth will get too sticky.
Yeah, but if
it's the only food you have, do you eat it? Because I feel like it would just make your mouth more dry. But it is sustenance. I mean, obviously you're going to eat it.
You got to eat it. Yeah, I would eat it. It's a good way to go.
Yeah.
Although I prefer creamy in that situation.
Oh, death by crunchy peanut butter.
Yeah. So we'll take some poll questions. Yep. Let us know. It'll be interesting to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And should we get into this thing?
Yeah. We've got an episode today.
Yeah. So good thing we just spent 10 minutes talking about peanut butter and potatoes.
These are priorities. Okay.
Yep. Had to be dealt with first.
This other thing we're going to talk about, it's kind of important, but more importantly, we need to figure out when crunchy peanut butter is appropriate.
Yes. And what thickness of potato wedge
what is your perfect fry potato?
Yeah, what's your PF? And when is a crunch appropriate? And those are the hard questions we're asking here at Words of a Feather.
But we're also talking about anxiety.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And then on the side.
Yeah, on the side, we're going to dabble into anxiety and ADHD.
Part 2. We're doing a part 2.
Yeah. So earlier episode. Cue the music. Episode 45. Anxiety Part 1, Scary Statistics.
Yep.
So
that's a great title.
So we talked about basically generalized anxiety disorder. And we kind of touched on what that is, what are the symptoms, treatment, and not so much about ADHD and anxiety, because that's this episode. Yay! But to kind of recap, generalized anxiety, there's a bunch of different...
Do we want to do our little accomplishments first?
Oh my God. I thought I was doing so well. I was like, I remember the intro.
Yep.
Can we do the little...
Yeah, let's do it. That's
Yeah.
all right. You got it. 2 out of 3.
I'm so excited that I nailed it, and then I just set myself up for failure.
You unnailed it. Yeah,
I
that's all right.
unnailed myself.
Yep. Let's do those little accomplishments.
Little accomplishments, but big in our hearts. Yay.
Yay. All right, Kristin, why don't you tell us your little accomplishment?
Okay. I registered last minute for a conference I'm supposed to go to
Woohoo!
to learn.
Yay!
It's the Aortic Symposium of 2023.
Oh,
I know.
yes, the Aortic
the
Symposium
classic
of 2023.
conference.
Yep.
No, I'm traveling with one of my neurotypical colleagues. We're gonna go learn some stuff.
Yay.
Mostly eat barbecue.
Where are you
'cause
going?
Houston.
Nice.
Gotta go get that southern food. I love southern food. It's so good.
Yeah, I do too.
Oh my god, everything's just like lard and yummy.
Ugh.
And just even the vegetables are like covered in some sort of fatty substance and like mixed with bacon, and it's just the way
God intended vegetables.
yeah. Who's doing salads when you've got, collard greens with bacon?
I agree. It's just better.
It's so much better. Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I guess I'm excited to learn about aortas because I probably should learn something.
Yeah, but you don't have to lie. It's okay.
These are fun because you get to travel, but it will be good. It will be good for me to learn about, caring for patients.
That would be helpful. Yeah, that would be nice.
So I'm excited.
Cool.
See what peeps are doing. Houston's they have a lot of like major hospitals, so it'll be interesting to see what people have to say.
Totally.
Grace.
Yes.
What is your little accomplishment?
I hung up a tapestry in the pod loft.
Nice.
You're sitting right next to it.
I am. It's got a bunch of moths on it, so
yeah.
I think it's very pretty.
It's there to frighten you and keep you on your toes.
Yeah, I am on my toes.
Never forget your place in the moth food chain.
Yeah. I am very low on that
You're
food
at the
chain.
bottom. Yeah,
at the bottom.
The pod loft is just we just need a little zhuzh. We've been talking about painting it and redesigning it, and we have plans to coming up. But in the meantime, I remembered that I had this beautiful tapestry, and I thought I would add a little zhuzh to the walls in the meantime.
Zhuzh it.
And I totally forgot your thing about moths until you came in here today, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Kristin's scared of moths."
Yeah,
that's okay. Maybe it's exposure
They're
therapy.
terrifying. Yeah, they're still terrifying. They're just,
they can't hurt you.
Especially the Luna moth. It doesn't have a mouth, but they can like flutter aggressively in my direction. So,
and that's what you're scared of.
Yeah. Well, no, you know what I'm scared of, and we've already talked about this.
The unpredictability.
They're not predictable. Where are you going?
They don't know.
That's the thing. How can you live your life that way?
Suddenly they're in your hair.
They're like, let me check out over here, this giant thing. And then it gets on your clothes and they're gross. Except for this one over here. I like this one.
Yeah, that one's pretty.
It's nice.
Yeah.
But no. I need to know what direction you're going in, and you need to not change your mind like 1,000 times.
I don't really understand your fear of moths, but I guess I'll just
I'm not the only one.
It.
It's like
I know
a thing.
You're not. But
plenty of people are afraid of moths.
Your reasoning just doesn't really make sense to me.
And it's because, and they all say the same thing. It's because there's no predictability.
But like, so what?
If a bee, you know where bees are going.
Bees are so much worse because bees can hurt me.
I'd rather get stung by a bee than deal with a moth.
Would you?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes.
That's a crazy thing to say.
That's not
You'd rather
crazy.
get stung by a bee than have a moth
I'm not
fly
allergic.
into
It will
your
hurt
hair?
for like a bit.
Okay, and the emotional damage that a moth will do is worse?
Yes. Years off my life.
You'd literally rather get stung by a thing? Like,
well, where am I getting stung? Like in the arm?
Anywhere.
Yeah. Well, not in the eyeball. That would really suck.
Well, not the eyeball. Yeah, the arm. Let's say the arm. You'd rather get stung on the arm by a bee than have a moth fly into you?
Yeah.
All right. I don't respect this. Never mind. I take it back. I don't even respect your fear of moths because that's insane.
The bee's just doing its job, protecting the hive.
But if he's going to sting me, I don't want that.
I like bees.
I like bees. I respect bees.
Bees are like the one insect I can definitely deal with on a regular basis.
I'm very scared of bees. I don't know why. I'm not allergic. I just don't want to get stung. I just don't like being stung. It hurts a lot.
That makes sense to me, but what makes more sense is these fuckers being afraid of these guys.
No, I don't get that. They can't bite you.
They're just like, they don't even make sense in my brain of like why they're a creature, you know?
So it's the unknown that makes you fearful.
I guess so, but they're like weirdly fluffy. No one should be that fluffy.
They're fluffity.
They're
puffity.
That's like
6,
from
7,
like
8, 9, 10.
2005.
Yeah. Oh, here's a poll question. Name that reference. No one will get it.
Name that reference. Jesus. I don't like moths, but these are okay because they're not real. They're painted.
Okay. Just remind yourself of that anytime you get a fright.
But I'm proud of you for hanging it up. It looks lovely.
All right.
I like the colors.
Yeah, I think it's quite lovely in the meantime before we paint.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We need to start this GD episode.
Yeah, let's get it together. We're in the meat.
Yeah, it is the meat.
It's the meat. So, like I was saying before I realized we didn't do our little accomplishment, is let's recap episode 45, which is generalizing. There's a bunch of different anxiety disorders out there. There's all these phobias. There's social phobia. There's agoraphobia, specific phobia. And there's also generalized anxiety disorder, which is basically having excess anxiety without like a really good probable cause, I guess, is not a great way to say it. Some people think it's a hyper response of the fight or flight in your nervous system. Symptoms include restlessness, fatigue, sleep disturbance, loss of concentration. Sounds a lot like ADHD. We'll get there. And it's supposed to be a diagnosis of exclusion, although it is often not treated as such. I know this from being in the medical community and stuff like that. So, so we recapped on that. We touched on it. We talked about it. We ranted quite a bit.
Yep.
And probably going to have more rants today.
Always. That's this podcast.
that is exactly why we're here. And so today we're going to talk about ADHD and anxiety because lo and behold, they're highly comorbid, which means they go together.
Yep. Like lamb and tuna fish. You prefer spaghetti and meatball?
Lemon and tuna fish?
Lamb and tuna fish. Name that reference.
No.
You don't get my reference?
I don't get that reference. No one gets that reference.
Yes, they do. I'm not going to say what it is, but
is it?
Tell me if you know what movie that's from.
Okay, so spaghetti and meatballs here.
Yep.
And peanut butter and jelly. Creamy.
Smooth.
Yeah. So anxiety is the number one comorbidity of ADHD.
Wait, is it beyond autism?
I believe so in my research, yes.
Okay.
But a lot of these articles are like from 2015.
Yeah, and also like we've talked about extensively, the medical community is fraught with problems, and still to this day, things are mostly studied on white males.
Yes.
And so, it's hard to talk about percentages of different diagnoses because like we've been shit in general at diagnosing these things.
Yes. So I think I got a lot of this from like the Google Scholar, so like research, like medically published articles. Yeah. So it's those, when you do like a medical study, sometimes it can take years. So maybe it's not like the current thing, but it is, from what I have read, the number one comorbidity.
Okay.
There's a lot of different, so I wanted to say, so at first I found a number that said there's about 50% of ADHDers have anxiety. And then there was a bunch of articles that said 25%. And then you found one that said like up to 60%.
Yeah, I think Tracy on ADHD for Smartest Women has said around 60. But she thinks that like pretty much all ADHDers have anxiety, which I do as well.
It's a stressful thing to have. And we're going to get into it.
Inherently, you'd think that we would pretty much all have some level of anxiety.
Yes.
Just inherently.
Because the world is against us, basically.
Yeah, so it's like, of course you're going to feel anxious. It all makes sense.
We're going to get into it. We are going to get into it.
Just giving them a little teaser of a rant, a little teasing rant.
Yeah, so it's what I'm going to say is a whole huck of a bunch of people who have ADHD also have anxiety. At
least half.
Anxiety disorder.
Yes.
So there's a study from 2006, which I know is a long time ago, in the Journal of Attention Disorders that showed those with anxiety and ADHD are often diagnosed later in life because the anxiety component inhibits or limits like the impulsivity of the individual. I thought that was really interesting. So they're thinking like, if you have a lot of anxiety, you're probably not going to be as impulsive because you're worried.
And I could see that in you.
I was just going to say, my impulsivity comes out in like the worst ways sometimes, but where I'm just like, fuck it. And I just end up breaking something.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say your impulsivity is very kind of controlled, I guess. Like you don't have big, like life ruining impulsive decisions or even like medium impulsive decisions.
I haven't ruined my life yet, but I'm getting there.
You're working hard at it.
So another study in Psychological Assessment, which is a journal I've never heard of, I don't know if it's a real thing, but
I hope so. If you're referencing it.
Yeah, I am. It is. I mean, you can find it, and all the links are below. Usually they're like the Journal of Psychological Assessment, but here, I don't know. I didn't name the journal.
You didn't?
No. And this is a quote. So, those with ADHD and anxiety appear to show increased difficulty with self-regulation and emotion and self-organization / problem solving, a domain which appears to overlap substantially with working memory, which totally makes sense. And a lot of people with anxiety, what are they anxious about? We're going to really dive into it in just a second. But it's all these working memory issues like remembering appointments and bills and stuff like that.
And that totally makes sense, once again, of why you would feel anxious about that. If like working memory specifically is diminished, which it is for ADHD,
right?
Then yeah, if you're like, I don't have a reliable system to remember something that someone literally just said to me.
Exactly.
Of course, going into any situation, you're going to feel anxious.
Exactly. So what does anxiety look like in someone with ADHD? Pretty much
Kristin.
Yeah. I am patient zero. No, I'm not patient zero. There are many before me.
You're just the poster child for it.
Yeah. Well, they share a lot of the same symptoms, including restlessness, forgetfulness, irritability, which we talked about, that emotional dysregulation, difficulty concentrating. Oh my gosh. And you're just like, well, this just sounds like ADHD. There's a quote from Dr. Sasha Hamdani, who is a board certified psychiatrist and an ADHD specialist in Kansas, who says an important question to ask when trying to figure out the root of the symptoms is the anxiety causing difficulty focusing, or is the inability to focus causing anxiety? So basically it's like chicken or the egg. Is it the ADHD causing anxiety, or anxiety causing this like working memory, forgetfulness, difficulty concentrating, which is a difficult question. It's hard to suss that out. And you know, people today have a really hard time trying it. This is why I kind of think that generalized anxiety disorder is, you know, maybe a little bit overdiagnosed.
Yep. You don't have to be so subtle about it. It is overdiagnosed.
Yeah. So because it's difficult. It's really difficult to see, you know, when you're trying to do this in like a very methodical way. It's like almost impossible, and you're meeting this person for like an hour, and now you have to do all these tests and figure it out, but you're not with them on a day-to-day basis, but you have to, you know, diagnose them as if you were. It's hard.
And masking is a big component.
That's another,
for female presenting people, that we do mask a lot. So it's like hard to even get diagnosed by specialists sometimes.
Right. Or when Christopher was diagnosed, you know, they made him play this game with numbers, and he loves to remember numbers.
I was gonna say, but he loved that.
He loved it, and he hyper-focused on it. And they're like, we don't think you have ADHD. And then
you're too smart.
They were like, you were like near genius levels on this, and your IQ must be super high. And then he went to another person, and they're like, oh no, you just have ADHD. Sounds like you hyper-focused on that. And he's like, yeah, it was great.
Yes.
I love numbers.
See, that's a real specialist who's going to take into account that we can have these hyper-focuses, which is the whole problem. That's why we haven't been diagnosed, because our hyper-focuses and our masking can like hide these struggles.
Right. And then especially with women, when, you know, all these studies have been done on men or boys, you know, it makes it difficult. But then,
you know, if you're black or a person of color, then it's even more so. These are very much like not studied on you, and the whole system is fraught with problems.
Yeah. So I think what that psychiatrist was trying to say is like, it's very difficult to figure out, is it anxiety causing a concentration issue, or is it ADHD causing an anxiety issue? And then you're like, well, what are ADHDers anxious about? And you're like, fucking everything. Yep. Most often it's a working memory thing. It's forgetting appointments, forgetting bills, being late, general time management, completing tasks, things that we as ADHD people have, you know, repeatedly have difficulty with, are very stressful. Trying to remember these things or kind of fit into the neurotypical world when you're not neurotypical is stressful. Yeah. It's stressful. You know, we're not set up to be, the world is not set up for us. It's set up for neurotypicals, and that is just stressful.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe you have a hyper-aroused nervous system, and then you're just like, it's a perfect recipe for anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk a lot about like the two sides of the same coin with ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
and anxiety can really be a big deciding factor of, are you like under vigilant about this thing because you have anxiety about like you're so bad at responding to emails that you're like,
Right.
well, fuck it, I'm just going to avoid my emails. Or do you
That's
like
me.
develop like so much anxiety that you are like obsessively checking your emails because
Right.
one time something fell through the cracks and now you're like, can't do that again. So then you become like, or you show up to places 45 minutes early because you were shamed for being late and now you're like anxious about being on time. But I feel like anxiety can really make those ADHD traits look so different depending
Right.
on what your anxiety
They're like,
about
oh,
this
she's
thing.
so punctual. And you're like,
Yeah.
no, she did nothing before this appointment.
Yeah, she sat for 2 hours. She got here like an hour early. Yeah, you can't just look at the behavior. You have to look at what's driving the behavior. Yeah, you're
Exactly.
right. If you know, on paper, a doctor would be like, well, they're never late to anything.
Right.
There's no way it's ADHD. But it's like, yeah, if you saw the behind the scenes, they're
You're like-
crazy.
You know what I always check and double check and still sometimes mess up is my documenting on patients' lefts and rights. That's like my big thing is like, was it a left or was it a right? I don't know. And I've been a lot better about it now, but like I'll check my notes like 4 times before I officially sign them because I'm like, I got to make sure it's a left or right.
Yeah, I do. I have some things that I do like obsessively because I'm so scared of making this mistake. Like checking for my keys before I leave the house. I will literally, I'll say out loud, my keys are in my bag. My keys are in my bag. And then before I leave, I still have to check the bag.
Yep.
Yeah.
I usually am like holding my keys and I'm like keys, phone, wallet, badge, keys, phone, wallet, badge. Now I just keep my badge in my car because I've forgotten it so many times. The last thing I wanted to talk about is treatment. Our last episode, when we talked about treatment, we talked about SSRIs, which can definitely help with anxiety. However, with this combo of anxiety, ADHD, you really need to, most of the time it's the ADHD causing anxiety. So treating the ADHD usually really helps the anxiety, whether this is a stimulant or a non-stimulant medication. Sometimes you can use an SSRI like Celexa or Prozac or Lexapro, all those ones in combo with ADHD medications. But these are all things you need to discuss with your doctor and figure out a good treatment plan for you. Wellbutrin or bupropion is the generic name for it, has an off-label use for ADHD and anxiety / depression because they think it acts on the dopamine receptors. This one I've been on and I'm sure it works for some people. It was not for me.
Why didn't you like it?
I rely heavily on my anxiety.
Yes.
That's like my thing. That's my whole shebang.
Your maladaptive coping strategy.
Yeah. And I love it. Kind of.
Do you?
No. But it's when you take Wellbutrin, it very much works on depression, anxiety, and you're like, wow, this is great, but you don't have that coping mechanism anymore. So I felt like, one, I just like stopped caring about the things I would care about, like getting, my stuff for work in on time. And I just really kind of like lost like all motivation because I rely on my anxiety for my motivation.
So it worked well.
You
just didn't have the coping strategies to replace your anxiety with like a healthier...
I wasn't prepared for it, I guess.
So I will add that if you do have ADHD and you're going to work on treating your anxiety, whether it's through ADHD medication or anxiety medication, pairing that with some behavioral changes and adding in some ADHD strategies, because like people say, pills don't teach skills.
Right.
And yeah, if you just take your anxiety away, now what? Like the medication isn't gonna suddenly give you executive functioning, even with like stimulants.
In the working memory, I could not even like remember my last name. I had no working memory. I was like convinced I was like becoming like a dumb person. And it was just because I didn't have, you're exactly right. I didn't have any ADHD skills. I wasn't ready to like lose all my anxiety. I need it for now.
You need to have strategies in place. You need to be able to structure your lifestyle in a way that's kind of like a slower living. Like you really, you can't just take anxiety meds if you're in a high kind of stress
the same thing happened when I had
like
Lexapro, first of all.
Yeah.
I just want to say that. And it now kind of all makes sense kind of talking this out. Yeah, I didn't have any strategies in place. And they, when you're prescribed these, or at least when I was, it was kind of like, well, this might work. let's see what it does. And they don't tell you about like, and probably because, you know, it hasn't really been studied, but like when you go on anxiety medication and you have ADHD, you got to be ready to like have all those coping mechanisms and those strategies and those behavior modifications to deal with not having your crutch. As if you use anxiety as a crutch for life, you got to be ready. So
yeah,
it didn't work out for me, and that's why.
Maybe the next time around.
The next time around. Yeah. I'm just taking a break from all of that for now.
Yeah, you really do have to find something to kind of replace that anxiety, whether it's a total like restructuring of your lifestyle and like building a slower life for you where you don't need to use that anxiety to get through, or you find kind of healthier strategies that will help you like care about your work. Like it's essentially like finding new motivators,
right? Because
anxiety is your major motivator, right? And without it, you're not really motivated to do things. And I've heard a lot of people say that when they like started treating their ADHD or their autism, or they started like working on their burnout, then suddenly it was like, well, now I feel like I don't have any motivation for anything. But it's like, yeah, that's kind of like part of the process, is that you've been using this maladaptive strategy for your entire life to get you to function in society. And of course you're going to struggle if you just take that away.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what happened. It was like, your one coping mechanism is gone.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice? And you're like, this is not nice. It was nice for like a day when you're like, wow, I feel like I'm not like depressed.
Yeah. Yeah, if you had some kind of structure set up for yourself, I think it would have gone differently.
And if I was like mentally prepared for it too, I thought I was like, oh, this will just help. And it might have, but the non-medication supports weren't there.
You know? And also in our sick late stage capitalism society, things that like work, quote unquote, could also be detrimental to you personally, like anxiety. You know, it's like it helps you function in our capitalistic society, even though it's unhealthy for you.
Oh, for sure.
So it was like a bad thing that it was taken away.
Do some yoga or some stretching at home.
Just some mindfulness.
You know, take a break. Try not to overload yourself.
Look away from your computer screen every 20 minutes. Fuck. Problem solved.
I fucking hate every time I have to do one of those like workplace wellness videos. I'm just like, I hate this.
It's all bullshit, because it's not actually about wellness. It's about how do we make you a more productive little worker. Right. It's not like, oh, we just care about your mental health.
You know who did a really great workplace wellness podcast episode? Maintenance Phase.
Ooh, of course they did.
We have to link that. It's
I love them.
I fucking love them so much. And I tell all the med students that come by to listen to it, and I think they all hate me. And I'm like, you need to listen to this.
Whatever. I'll never stop suggesting Maintenance Phase. Those of you listening, go listen to Maintenance Phase.
Especially if you're in healthcare, I think it's so crucial. Just start with the BMI episode, because it's so just like, oh.
Yeah, well, just fat phobia is so deeply ingrained in our culture.
And then in the BMI, it's like a made up number, and there's no like...
It has a racist base also.
Yes. And it's repeatedly shown to be like, it doesn't account for like muscle mass, or, you know.
It was like made up by this guy who was like a scientist or something.
And they showed that they're like, oh, this really doesn't like show anything. But yeah, like medications are based off of, sometimes they're based off of weight, but sometimes they're based off of BMI. And you're like, why?
Which is insane.
Anyway.
All right, anyway.
Oh my gosh, I can't.
On track.
We gotta... So you need to work with your doctor, but also if you're, you know, seeking treatment for anxiety, you got to like do some deep thinking of like, is this my crutch for life? Because I want to say like, don't do what I did and was like, oh, let me just treat my anxiety and then just like be an absolute helpless person.
Yes.
Because that's what happened, and it wasn't fun, and it's taken me months to like get back to where I was. And I think now I'm like trying like actual skills and behavioral modifications to help myself, which is a much better route. And then maybe when I am like ready, I'll revisit the whole medication game again. But for now, nope.
All right. Thanks for your honesty.
Yup.
Yeah.
That being said, studies have shown that treating ADHD first has been shown to decrease the symptoms of other psychiatric disorders and comorbidities such as anxiety, depression, bipolar, and substance abuse. And I really want to like touch on that in depth later, that it's not crazy. It makes total sense, because people with substance abuse often are self-medicating for untreated or underdiagnosed or undermedicated psychiatric disorders.
Yeah.
You know, no one wants to be addicted to drugs. No one goes into it being like, let's get addicted, even though I think some people think of that. But it's crazy, you know, you treat the root cause and it treats all the other things like the anxiety or the depression or the substance abuse, you know?
It's wild.
Wild to
How
think
that happens.
that when you you properly medicate or properly give the person the skills or the treatments and the therapies that they need, that they get better and all the other things go away. Crazy. And then lastly, a big thing is to rule out PTSD. Since many neurodivergents have PTSD and trauma, that can mimic a hypervigilant state of mind and can mimic anxiety. And if you just treat that without getting to the underlying cause, once again, of like the trauma, and that's, you know, a lot of like therapy, it may, you know, medications probably won't work if you don't treat like the trauma behind it.
Yeah. But also I feel like that once again falls into like what came first, the chicken or the egg, because like almost all of us have CPTSD, which is complex PTSD, which is like smaller little things throughout your life that you wouldn't even necessarily point to as like, wow, that was a big traumatic moment for me. It's like literally like all those tiny little moments of like rejection, or shame or whatever, and they all build up, and that also can affect your brain, you know, very similarly to anxiety and similarly to ADHD. So it's like what came first, but yeah, I think for us, it's like, I feel like almost all ADHDers have CPTSD and have anxiety. And yeah, it's really hard to like separate those.
It's hard to separate. It is. And I think that leads to like misdiagnosis, that leads to like incorrect therapies. And then, you know, it's hard, but you have to figure out, and it may be a long journey, but like what works for you. And maybe that's no medication at all. Maybe that's a stimulant. Maybe it's a non-stimulant. Maybe it's like an SSRI, Wellbutrin, some sort of thing like that.
Or maybe it's somatic therapy.
Could be
somatic,
body-based therapies. It could be cognitive behavioral therapy.
Well, speaking of that, I do have one thing that a listener said about CBT.
Oh, sure.
Mind me jumping in.
Yeah. I'm done with my little rant, so.
Thank God. Just kidding.
Hope you liked your anxiety rant.
I loved it.
But yeah, who said?
So I'm going to keep them anonymous.
Okay.
But they said, I've had CBT and found it really helped. This was before I even realized I had ADHD, and I diagnosed myself with generalized anxiety after a few sessions of CBT when I was at a really fucking low, like lowest of the low, struggling parenting 3 neurodivergent children.
My God.
With my own issues of hypersensitivity to sounds, etc. Oh, it was bad times.
I can't even imagine.
Right? I can't even manage myself.
It's a nightmare.
She said, the CBT really helped, but I think you have to gel with a practitioner. Absolutely. To identify where you are catastrophizing and where you have a problem versus a worry. I feel it didn't cover it all, but it was defo the beginning to me unraveling my wonderful brain and realizing that the patterns that our brains develop are sometimes super destructive and at others debilitating. So I thought that was really helpful that she said that, to let us know that in some situations, CBT can be very helpful, you know, like we talked about. It's not a black and white.
Yeah. Therapy, whether the medication or somatic or cognitive, it is so unique per person, and you have to figure out, and that sucks that sometimes you have to like trial and fail sometimes, but you have to figure out what works for you, and what works for you might not work for, you know, someone else. Yeah. Yeah. And I do, what was I going to say? Oh, I think she made a really good point, obviously, that I do think the number one key is finding the right practitioner. Because you could have a CBT therapist who, like, does not understand ADHD or autism at all and is going to just try to, like, do the bullshit we talked about, where it can just be, like, a lot of, like, positive affirmations and blah, blah, blah. Or you could find a therapist who really does understand your neurotype or what's going on. And, yeah, I can just, like, make a world of difference of how helpful versus harmful they're going to be. Yeah. It is totally okay to ask for a different person if you're not vibing. Yes. And that goes with therapists, that goes with doctors. You can always ask for a second opinion from a specialist or a second opinion from a second specialist. That's totally fine, because you need to be your own advocate. Yeah. When people are like, I want a second opinion, I'm never offended. I'm like, great, good. Let's get you more information, because you need this making medical decisions isn't easy. And if you need more information from more than one opinion, when I hire like a carpenter or something, I'm not going to like go to the first place. You're going to look for reviews. You're going to do your research. You're going to figure it out. And some people need a different person. Some people need a second opinion, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, I think it'd be a big ego trip. You'd just be on an ego trip if you were like offended by that, of like someone wanting more information about their own health. It's like, they're the patient.
Okay. Or like questioning the doctor. That's fine to question the doctor. Like they're there for questions.
Yeah, but I think so many people just like defer to them as, the authority.
They're not
same with
all-knowing.
therapists. Yeah. Or you're just like, I don't know, well, you know best.
Yeah.
Which can happen so easily to us, especially as ADHDers, that we've been told that like, you don't know what you're talking about. You can't trust your intuition. Blah, blah, blah. You're asking too many questions.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's a good
It's okay
reminder.
if you don't vibe with someone.
Yeah. And a bad therapist can really fuck you up, if they're like having you convinced that this is all your fault and it's just in your head or whatever. You just need to like positive talk your way out of anxiety and
just
ADHD.
positive affirmations all the way. That's all. You just have a negative mindset.
Yeah. But I do like what that listener said about CBT really helped her with catastrophizing.
Yes.
And I think that's a really good point, that I do see CBT as being valuable for people who do have those like big ruminating thoughts, or just thoughts that are like totally false. It's not like, well, I failed at this one thing, and so now I'm worried I'm going to fail again. It's like, I'm so worried that my house is going to burn down when I leave it or whatever. Like just things that are just like catastrophizing, I do see it being helpful for that. And I did just want to add a little more on just kind of clarifying why people do have some difficulties with CBT. Autistic creators especially, I see them talking about it a lot, because for a lot of neurodivergent people, we are very cognitively based. And for those psychology girlies out there like me, you've done a lot of self-analyzation. You've like looked at your thoughts. You've looked at your behaviors. You know why you do certain things. You know that thought is wrong and that it's like lying to you. So with CBT, it's like we've already cognitively like processed so much of this stuff that like I don't need to be like told what my problem is. I need to just like get it out of my body,
Right.
So yeah, I think that's an important distinction of what really do you need help with and where do you feel like your anxiety is kind of stemming from. Because you can, like we've talked about, you can have all the positive reframes in the world, but if you're still feeling that fight or flight in your body, then like that doesn't really matter. So yeah, I didn't want to, I don't know. I didn't want to go too hard against CBT, and I thought that was really great that the listener was like,
if it works, it works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Same with somatic therapies. Like maybe some people just didn't respond to that, and that's fine.
And that's fine. Yeah, I think if you've tried talk therapies like CBT or just straight up talk therapy or any type of cognitive processing to like work on your anxiety and you're not really seeing many changes, I do think somatic therapy would be good for you to try out, because it just takes a totally different pathway. And I think that if anything, for some people, myself included, adding even more cognitive processing to a problem can make it worse, because I can think myself in circles, it's like at the end of the day, I just need to like turn my brain off and release this from my body. Like I don't need more reframes. I need to just like shut my brain off.
Have you thought of it in a different light though?
I've thought of it in every fucking light, Susan. So that's like why I'm going so hard for somatic therapies, because I feel like most of my life I have been like a cognitive person of like, let's just think about this more. Let's journal about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk. But if I haven't been able to fix myself yet, I know it's not just my brain, it's also in my body. So
got to get all those body wiggles out.
Yeah. And wiggling is good for you, good for your nervous system.
Oh, did I tell you I tapped?
You did?
I did.
How'd it go?
It went okay.
Yeah?
I got sleepy.
Yeah?
I did the bedtime one, but then like, do you have to pay for that app?
Yeah. And I forgot to mention that. There's some free ones on there.
I did one free one, and then I got a bunch of emails and they're like, pay this much money to do more tapping. And I'm like, oh, this is...
No, and I should have said that in my episode. I forgot that I even paid for it. But I do know there are some free ones on there. Like
this is why we need to make our own free app called Tap Out of It.
I legitimately think we should.
I think we should.
Someone in the tech industry partner with us on this Tap Out of It. Don't steal our idea.
You'll get no revenue back.
No, you'll get something. We'll give you shares. We need you. Let's lie to them. Tell them
Yeah.
Don't listen to this part. Lie to them. Tell them that
We want to make a free tapping app.
Yeah.
That's not fat phobic.
Yes.
Called Tap Out of It.
Yes.
In the back, it's just gonna be like, and it's going to be an actual tap dancer.
Yeah, on top of tapping.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I think we got
Tap
something.
Out of It.
I think we got something here.
Coming to an iPhone near you.
I think we should maybe make a prototype of some guided sessions.
Some guided tap sessions.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Well,
Should we
congrats.
get it?
I'm proud of you for trying tapping.
I thought it worked. Yeah, but I'm going to stick with my free stuff for now. So instead, to shut my brain off, I found a new bedtime app.
Nice.
It's called The Sleepy Bookshelf.
Okay.
And this lady with this very English accent, so it sounds fancier.
Yep.
Calming, soothing voice, reads books, but takes all the stressful parts out of them.
Ooh.
So that's kind of nice. So I do that, and then I do my other one, Nothing Much Happens, which is another lady who reads a story that she writes herself, which I think is quite nice. And they're very calming and relaxing stories.
Nice.
I just got done with Pride and Prejudice.
Congrats.
Couldn't tell you what happened because I always fall asleep.
Yeah.
But
that's the whole point,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So,
did you try any tapping for anxiety or just a sleepy time
just
one?
the sleepy time one.
Well, try the anxiety one. I think that one's also free.
Okay.
And I think you can just listen to it as many times as you want.
Cool.
Because I just have a few that I do, not all the time, but when I go to tap, I'll do this handful of ones I do over and over.
Yeah.
And it's good to do the same one over and over.
Okay.
To kind of drill that message into your body. But yeah, try the anxiety one, and I think you'll notice a nice little difference.
Okay.
And I'm sorry I didn't mention that you have to pay for the app, and I wish I didn't. I wish you didn't have to pay for it. But it's called the Tapping Solution. There are still a few on there that you can try out, just to give you a little taste.
A little taster.
Yeah.
Should we get on with the boat?
Yeah, let's wind it down.
Yeah.
And
Clip. Wait.
Yeah.
Clip trap to the
clip to the
train station.
Yeah,
with the birds.
because we're here with our load of birds.
Our load of birds at the train station.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unload the birds.
Unload the birds for the bod. I want your bod.
Nice bod. All right, but first, remember, we just gotta end it because then we'll fade out.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like we need to have the rules written on the wall for you.
Some sticky note. I need a screen that says almost what do the newscasters read?
Oh yeah, a prompter.
A prompter.
Teleprompter.
I need a teleprompter.
Yeah.
But it has a syllabus on it.
Yeah.
A syllabus prompter.
I mean, you're just looking at your computer where we have the outline.
Yeah, but maybe I should.
What's the difference?
I should put in little places
stage directions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I need to do.
Yes, you need to be more explicit because you make the outline we'll just assume, we just know to introduce the podcast.
But I don't
We
know.
just know to do an outro. You don't.
I don't.
You are literally looking at exactly what we have written, and that's the schedule for you.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm just my brain is filling in what's not written down.
Yes.
And you don't do that. So I feel you need to make it more explicit.
I need to make stage
and that's
directions.
Okay. Yeah. Give yourself an accom.
That's
accommodation.
Great idea.
Yeah.
God, you're brilliant.
I am sometimes.
This has been Weird as a Feather, an ADHD-adjacent contest.
No, not at all.
Oh my God.
ADHD-adjacent contest. Ooh, that's a good idea. We should do an ADHD-adjacent contest.
Oh my God. I keep thumping on this. I'm
I
sorry.
know,
You're going to
you
have
do.
to edit that out.
I
Okay.
literally always have to because you're always every episode.
Where's my fidget sorters? Here it is.
I hope you guys realize just how good I am at sound editing.
You're so
because
good.
the amount of times Kristin is
It's
slamming on the arm of her chair to
moving things,
accentuate
burping.
her point, but it's I'm the only one seeing it, and now you just hear a bunch of banging in the background.
Eventually,
of the
we'll
podcast.
film ourselves,
And then you'll get to see
and then you get to see me in
Kristin.
action.
Yep.
You'll be like, "Wow."
She should not be doing that during an audio medium, but here she is.
This has been Weirds of a Feather, an ADHD-adjacent podcast. I hope you liked our podcast today about anxiety and ADHD. Hopefully you learned something. And if you didn't, well, I hope you enjoyed the ride.
Yeah, I hope you had fun anyways. You don't always have to learn here, and you won't.
Yeah.
You can rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcast and Spotify. You can just give us a rating. I've seen a few people did give us some 5 stars on Spotify.
Nice.
So I think we have 21 reviews on there. I think we're back up to 5 stars maybe.
The rule is if you give us less than 5 stars, you have to write why.
Yes. You have to tell us why.
We
need to know.
Need to know the criticism.
We can handle it. We really can't.
We can't. No, we can't, but it's good for us.
And luckily no one's done it yet.
No,
so.
all our fans have been so supportive and so nice, and we really, really like you. If you like us too, you can follow us at weirdsofeather@gmail.com. No, you can't follow us.
You can
Oh my
email
gosh,
us there.
You can email us there. And then you can follow us on Instagram at weirdsofeather. You can join our Facebook group. It grows every day.
Every day.
And
you can buy us a coffee.
Yeah.
At ko-fi/wordswithfeather.
Pay your bills first.
Yes, pay your bills.
Make a financial plan. All right.
Toss some change our way if you got leftovers.
If you got leftovers,
great.
Great.
We'll take them.
If not, that's fine.
Yeah. All right. And that's it, I would say.
And that's our outro.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles.
And now, stage right.
Yep.
We go to the bod.
Show me that bod.
Today's bod is we're going back to Australia. I feel like
Down under.
We've done a lot of Australian birds.
Yes.
So here's one more.
Add it to your repertoire.
They just have the coolest birds.
I know. They got great birds.
They got great birds. Australia, you're doing something right. The eastern whipbird is native to Australia. It's like a olive green bird, and it's got black, and it's got a white little belly. And it's named for its whip-like call. And let's take a listen.
Let's hear it.
Like a whip.
What the fuck?
I know.
There's no way.
You got it.
That sound is very hard to mimic.
Yeah, well, I know. Maybe we should choose easier birds.
Yeah, you're choosing really hard birds that make like sounds that don't sound like they're even coming from animals. Like the smoke alarm one.
Oh, yes.
That was just like... It's like a plop. It's like a plop in a bucket. Like, boop.
Like a whip, like a...
Yeah. Or plop in a bucket.
Okay,
called a plop bird. All right, I got it. Close enough. That just sounded like a mosquito.
Yeah,
I hated that.
This is really good in an audio medium.
Yeah, people love it.
The high pitch.
Well, I think that's as good,
it.
as close as we're gonna get.
Our bod.
And that's been our bod. And
next time I'll pick an easier bird.
Maybe.
I always appreciate bird suggestions.
Okay, and that's it.
That's it.
See ya.